5, 6, 7, 8. Remember that rule that was supposed to cap your credit card late fees or missed payment fees to just $8 instead of like 30 or 40? Well, you can kiss that goodbye. Why? Well, because the Trump administration joined several big banks and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce who were suing and decided to just throw the rule out. And on top of that, just last week, a federal judge in Texas legally vacated the rule. Translation, it's not happening. It's over. Now, this is a story I've been covering for years, but before I tell you more about how it has now officially come to an end, I want to point out a very interesting fact in this story. This $8 late fee policy was created by the Biden administration's Consumer Financial Protection Bureau after it went through the lengthy legal rulemaking process. The $8 late fee rule was based on a law that Congress passed back in 2009 called the Credit Card Accountability, Responsibility, and Disclosure Act, or CARD Act. That law prohibits companies from building a business model based on penalties, fee harvesting, and bait and switch tactics. The rule that capped those late fees at just $8 was created as part of President Biden's overall policy of removing what he called junk fees. He said those fees that the big banks and the credit card companies were charging you were unfair and easily fell into the prohibited business practices under the CARD Act. Back then, the Biden administration said the rule would save everyday Americans like $14 billion a year in these late fees. But last May, right before the $8 late fee rule was scheduled to take effect, one federal judge in Texas issued, guess what? A nationwide injunction that stopped the Biden administration from moving forward with the $8 late fee rule while the legal case played out. So you're probably wondering, well, Lisa, what's so important about that detail? Well, this was clearly a Biden policy. And clearly, one single federal judge issued a nationwide injunction that stopped his policy. And it's the same thing that federal judges are doing right now to President Trump when it comes to some of his policies. And now, as I told you in this video last week, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court to stop federal judges from issuing nationwide injunctions because President Trump believes no single federal judge should have the power to stop a president from enacting his policies nationwide. Just something to think about. Okay, now back to why this $8 credit card late fee is gone. Well, as I said initially last year, these big banks and credit card companies sued the Biden administration, saying the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau overstepped its authority when it created this rule. Judge Mark Pittman, a federal judge in the Northern District of Texas, issued that nationwide injunction which stopped the rule from taking effect in May of last year while the case continued on. But that case stretched into Trump taking office, and under Trump's authority, the very same Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that created this $8 late fee rule under Biden changed its position. And in this legal document the CFPB filed just last week, they said to the court that they now agree with the big banks and the credit card companies that the $8 late fee rule violates the CARD Act by failing to allow card issuers to charge penalty fees reasonable and proportional to violations. Yeah, you heard that correctly. The Trump administration wrote in a legal court document that limiting the penalties that you pay for a late credit card payment to just $8 is not legal because it doesn't give the big banks and the credit card companies the flexibility to charge you what they see as a reasonable and proportional fine. One day after the CFPB filed that document, Judge Pittman issued this order which vacated the $8 late fee rule. Of course, the bankers and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce cheered, saying had the rule gone into effect, it would have resulted in more late payments, lower credit scores, higher interest rates, and reduced credit access for those who need it most. It would have also penalized the millions of Americans who pay their credit card bills on time and reduced important incentives for consumers to manage their finances. If you want to read any of these legal documents, I'm going to email all of them out to you in my Facts HQ email tonight. It's a really great resource, so make sure you sign yourself up.